Hi guys, today we're going to talk about what it means to be a narcissist or a psychopath or an actual supplier and enabler. And this does have a lot to do with everything I've been talking about, and eventually we'll correlate it to astrology. I know a lot of people, they want to know what particular things make people a narcissist or a psychopath. And I find that to be actually very interesting because pretty much what I've seen is that everybody is capable of either. Because a psychopath is on one opposite end of the spectrum where the narcissist is on the other end. And based on your placements, you could tell where you would go if you had enough. And when I say having enough, that means you've been a supplier. Every human being as a child starts out as a supplier for some psychopath or some narcissist. And eventually they get fed up with it and they go the route that their chart takes them. And what this is when your body is out of alignment, when your consciousness cannot align your soul and your body energy together. Now, consciousness actually means awareness. And I have seen some people talk about like that between the consciousness and the unconsciousness, there's awareness, and that's not true. That would be redundant. That would be saying between the awareness and the unawareness, there is awareness. Let's not go there. You want your consciousness to be aware of the two sides of you. And if you've watched my other videos on the soul and life, which are the divine feminine and the divine masculine, you will see that there are certain aspects to every person that want to be married inside of us. And when we look at a narcissistic personality disorder, we're looking at somebody who aligns and desires divine feminine. When we look at a psychopathic personality disorder, we are looking at somebody who aligns with the divine masculine. And I want to kind of show you how they do that. So when you are watching this, pay attention to the things that are. And I'm not saying that anybody is a narcissist or a psychopath, but I'm saying that it's all within ourselves. And there is going to be one that you align with more. And what we can do about that, if this is happening, it's because you are out of alignment. It's because there might be a point that we could actually heal ourselves. They say that you can't heal a narcissist. That's a brain dysfunction. Same with psychopath. They say that because nobody else can heal you but yourself. And when you get to these certain places of superiority complexes, nobody wants to heal themselves. They like it. Why? Because they're no longer being taken advantage of. They're all of a sudden able to survive and take care of their own lives and their own personalities and have their own power. And this feels great for them. So why would they stop? Why would they go back to that helpless victim that they once were? And the only reason you would do that is so you're not an awful person, but no one wants to admit they're an awful person. So let's get into this. Now, we know about splitting. I think most people know about consciousness and not splitting. That when something bad happens or you do something bad or there's trauma, your brain sort of splits. It creates the good part of you and the bad part of you. Now, a psychopath doesn't necessarily have this splitting. This is what creates a lot of like genius and intense organization in a psychopathic disorder over the narcissistic disorder. A narcissist is going to split. And they are going to have a sad or bad part of themselves, usually because of their mother trying to destroy one part of them. And then they are going to have the happy part and the narcissist and the good part. The narcissist only allows that. And they like to cancel out the shit part, okay? So this makes people feel that a narcissist naturally feels superior, but this is not true. A narcissist's baseline is inferiority. They are insecure. They hate themselves, okay? A psychopath's baseline is superiority. They think they're great. And this is really important with knowing the two differences and why it's not really, it's kind of counterproductive to call somebody who seems to walk around superior and tell them that, oh, it's because you have a big ego, to call this person a narcissist, because it doesn't make any sense. It's not the truth of what narcissistic personality disorder is. It's just a lie. And a lot of people really believe this to be true for some reason, but it's because they've never studied it or something. And you just have to get that out of your mind. A narcissist hates themselves. This is true. There is, we're going to actually start with narcissist first, and then we're going to go more in depth into the psychopath. But the first thing I want to discuss is that a long time ago when I was trying to learn about this stuff, and I went to school, I didn't graduate, but I wanted to major in psychology, and so I did some of that. And I do have some interest in that beyond school, and I actually read a lot of books about it. And I don't actually read books, but if I were to read, it would be something about psychology. I'm not trying to give you my understanding of this, like you don't necessarily need my reasoning, but just in case you wanted to know, I'm not trying to make something up here. This is what this is. But the other thing is that one time I was reading about it online, okay, and I came across this psychopath site, because psychopaths are oftentimes stated or made to be like murderers. It's not true. Basically, if everybody has the ability to be a psychopath or a narcissist, they could go one step further and actually kill somebody. That's right. There's no sun sign or moon sign or whatever that's going to lead to these things that leads to murder of somebody else. That's just the next step. We all have steps in involvement in what allows us to get shitty. But on this psychopath site, I was reading it, and they were describing the idea and the major difference between a narcissist and a psychopath. And it hit me. Like, it was like an amazing analogy. And I don't know who said it, and I'm really sorry about that. But I'm going to state it. So just so you know, I didn't invent this. Find out who did and give them all the credit, because it's amazing. Everybody's a sheep, okay? But a narcissist is a wolf, and so is a psychopath. A narcissist is a wolf among sheep that's wearing sheep clothing, that walks around with all the sheep and says, don't I look just like a sheep? I am like such a sheep. I'm a superior sheep, but I'm such a sheep. I'm just like you. I'm such a sheep. I'm so cool like you are, but I'm highly superior than you, just because I have like extra special sheep things that you don't have, but I'm a sheep still, okay? And then everyone's like, okay, yeah, we get it. You're a sheep. Actually, now we really get it. You're just a wolf in sheep's clothing, and we're going to kick you out. But it might be because you ate a lot of people in cold blood right in front of us, and we're like, okay, you can't be a part of our friend group anymore. Then a psychopath, they will watch the sheep from afar. They will put together the perfect sheep clothing. They will walk out into the middle of all of the sheep, and no one will know. And when the time is right, they will bring a bunch of the sheep back to their home, and they will eat them all. That's the major difference. So we're going to work with that analogy so that you can kind of see why this is the way that it is, and why certain things sound cooler, but in general, both of these things is what is wrong with the world, and why everybody can't just live their lives anymore, because nobody is a supplier anymore. Everybody is becoming a wolf. No one wants to be the sheep. Everyone's becoming a wolf. And the truth of the matter is that in collective consciousness, we understand that there is a sacrificial lamb. In all different mythology and religion, we understand that there is a sheep, an underdog, so to speak, that is the chosen one. And the chosen one complex is what actually creates these things. They said, so every psychopath and every narcissist believes that they once time started out as the underdog and they've risen above. This is why you also can't get them to change, because they truly believe that they've figured out how to become the one. They have figured out how they sacrificed their sheepdom to become the one. And this makes them good. Whether it's a narcissist who splits to believe that they're good, or the psychopath who just reimagines their entire consciousness, whatever that is, they are good and they are the one. So you have to remind yourself of that as you're listening. So that was like a long intro. I don't think it was really an intro. It's more like what this is. So let's talk about narcissists. And I'm going to bring up one other personality disorder that I did not mention yet. And that is histrionic. You've probably heard it before. You see, most narcissists are men. But that's crazy. Does that mean that most females are psychopath? No, that's not a thing. You see, histrionic is basically the extroverted narcissist. Now, there's other things to be said about this, but I like to explain things in the most simplest form, so if you can understand that. A narcissist has this mysterious ability to sort of walk into a room, not say anything, be an awful prick, expose people project stuff onto them and just whatever. But they have this mysterious quality that sort of brings people to them because they are introverted, because they don't give up all that information, and they kind of seem like they like to be loners. The histrionic is extroverted. She talks a lot, okay? And it might be a he. Sometimes there are men who are histrionic, just like there are women who are narcissists. But it fits more of the feminine nature to be histrionic because of their community orientedness, because they give up all of their information. They love to talk. You see, the best way to, if you're sort of being attacked by a histrionic woman or man, just know that everything that they're saying is basically their entire deck or their hand, basically. So what I was saying is, if you're playing poker, of the game of chess and poker, you know, whatever, of life with these horrible people, if you're playing against a histrionic person, they are publicly showing you their whole hand. They don't have anything else on you. They gave it all up. And sometimes they will even make up evidence to put out there just so that they can have enough to prove their point. Narcissists are a little bit different than that. They just don't show their hand at all. Not that they actually have a good hand. They're more bluffers, right? Like, I have a good hand, but they have nothing. And the histrionic be like, look at me. I got 2 aces. And they're like, I'm going to win. 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 If I don't win, I'm going to cry about it. Okay. Does that make sense? I feel like that's a thing. So, but basically what you could say is that the narcissist and histrionic are together doing the exact same thing in just a different way. One of them's putting it out there. One of them's keeping their hands close to their chest. But really what they all want is positive affirmation for their false self. Their false self is caused by splitting, their mental splitting. They have this false self. They have built it up. But the problem is that the bad part of them is still there. So what do? They project it on other people. When a narcissist gets fulfilled, they have to have other people around them to do it. You see, they can't just fulfill themselves because they need the bloodline. They need life. They are vampires. So they take from life. Sometimes that means if there's no life around, they will take from animals. They need animals to survive if there is no one else around them because they need it. They need all that extra attention. But there are primary suppliers and secondary suppliers. A primary supplier is going to be someone that doesn't really know them that well, an acquaintance, because they will never know that there is anything other than their false self, and they can remain perfect to them. Now, the secondary suppliers, like the family members, the children, the best friends, the people who do know them. And the secondary suppliers are oftentimes shit on the most, unless the narcissist or histrionic needs them, in which case they will come to them all kindly and try to get more supply from them. But often, because they're so close, the secondary suppliers usually are just lifeless. You know, you've seen a child of a narcissist or histrionic person and they are gray in the face. They have bags under their eyes. They're just tired because their entire life is devoted to their narcissistic or histrionic parent. Same with the husband or wife of a narcissist or histrionic. They are just always to blame as the scapegoat. Yet, there is a scapegoat and a golden child normally. And in general, if someone is more histrionic or narcissistic, they probably were the scapegoat child as kids. They were the one that their own narcissistic, histrionic parent or psychopathic parent painted as the demon. And that is what they believe that they are. It's all shallow, but they just feel like they have a mask of demonic nastiness on them, and that the only way that they can get out of it is to have other people affirm how great they are. And that's why they just feel shitty. But the one thing that you need to know about them is that they really do align with divine feminine. They want to ascend. They have hope. They want power. They want beauty. They want to progress. They desire pleasure, and they desire glory. These are the divine feminine characteristics, and I've talked about them in another thing. So how does a narcissist do it? Because it is all shallow. Because they either are bluffing with nothing, or they're showing you their hand and it's not that great, so they must have something better. No, they don't. They're shallow. There's nothing really much deeper because they've already given that up. They've given that up to get away from the pain. So how do they ascend if they can't do this stuff? How do they have hope and power? How do you have all this if you're going to be shallow? Well, it's pretty easy, okay? They ascend by standing on the backs of others. Networking. They have hope that their next idea, their next relationship is going to be the greatest thing that's ever happened. That's why they oftentimes talk about how great everything is, right? It's just like amazing. The third one is, but it never ends up being amazing. After they put it out, you're like, oh, that was it? That's all you did? You're like, that wasn't that great, but you talked it up so much, I thought it was going to be fantastic. So the third one is power. They get power through protecting their imperfections and keeping people at a safe distance so that they can affirm them and they can show their authoritative power over them later, the same people who affirmed them in the first place. Beauty. They receive their beauty through vanity and intense self-care. Histrionics, narcissists are spending more time on themselves and perfecting their bodies than other people and taking care of their own children. They might even go to a lot of psychiatrists to take care of their own brains while they know that their children are depressed and they refuse to make sure that their own kids have a good mind. Like that beauty on the inside and outside is what they focus on. 5 is progress. They go through progress through recycling and relabeling. They call that progress. Basically, they recycle old relationships. They recycle old ideas. They go through phases of things, and then they say, I progressed past that. Instead of growth, it's just a new thing that I forgot about, and I brought it back, and I'm like, look how great this is. I'm adding to my achievements here. Pleasure. Most histrionics and narcissists are sexual deviants. I mean, in the fact that they just will have sex with a lot of people in order to get what they want or to prove that they're important to them. To get the affirmations, they might have sex with someone. Most likely, they love sex. And maybe they don't love sex, but they use it as a tool to get ahead, to have the idea of pleasure. But it normally isn't that pleasureful for them. Yeah. And the last one is glory. Self-affirmation is how they receive glory. They talk about themselves. They talk themselves up. They talk about how great they are, or they talk about themselves in the third person, or they talk about like you might see a Facebook status from a histrionic mother who says something like, people might not see all the work that you do, but just know that you're amazing and your children love you and your husband loves you and everybody really loves you, even if they don't have the time to tell you. Might something like that, because they're not talking about other people. They're talking about themselves, but they're putting it out there to show how amazing they are. Now, what they hate to do, because they hate the divine masculine part of them, they will not penetrate things. They care nothing about getting to know anyone else. They don't want to know you. They don't care about what you're doing, who you are. Everything's shallow. They don't know anything about you whatsoever. Maybe certain characteristics of you. They might remember something that you like, but they don't care to know you. They have no faith. They will not put their faith in other people. They will do everything on their own, and they will leave the crap bits to other people for them to take on. Dominion. They could care less about controlling others. They can easily find something else to control or to do or to have. Like, it doesn't matter to them. They'll let you go. So who needs dominion over other people? Just move on from you. It's not like a really big deal. If you're going to do something the wrong way, then they'll yell at you. But if you're not still going to do it, they can just leave you, cheat on you, whatever. They're not going to control you. What's the other? Oh, light. And the divine masculine thing is light. They don't mind sharing when they're sad or depressed or dark or going through it or having anxiety or having a bodily problem. They will tell you about it and they will gain your sympathy for it. Design. They normally put out haphazard, badly designed work. Why? Because they don't have the ability to structure themselves or organize their ideas into a way that is easily palatable by an audience. So they put out something, you're like, this could be good, but it seems sort of incomplete. They don't care about elimination. They will never fully get rid of someone. So even though they'll move on from whatever, like, I don't need to talk to you. They always hold on to people because they have to recycle them later. They have to come back later. They're never fully gone from somebody or something. So they can never fully kill it. And they don't believe in magic. They only believe that it's hard work that pushes them forward. So they don't believe that they could have some amazing thing happen to them. And that is partly why they are so mean. They don't care about kindness because they don't necessarily even really believe in karma unless it's something that they can put on somebody else. Now, you can kind of see these funny things that they do. They they oftentimes have to backpedal because they will say horrible, nasty things about somebody to the point of like, how could you even be with this person? You are such a victim of abuse. And then they will go right back to them. And it's because they probably lied about it or were the instigator of the abuse. And so they have to backpedal a lot about the things that they say. Like, oh, I didn't mean it that way. It wasn't that bad. I must have exaggerated. And it can get eventually pretty embarrassing for the narcissist or histrionic because of how badly they paint these people that they need in their lives. So they have to go back and make up an excuse for why they did. Narcissists and histrionic project all their bad feelings, but sometimes too many people see them or they become exposed in some way, shape, or form. And when that happens, they have to apologize. And that is the most embarrassing, harmful thing that they can do to themselves. And so when you get them into that place, when you expose them publicly and they have to do something like say, I was wrong in any way, like even if it's the smallest thing, that hurts them. They are so embarrassed because that just proves that their parents, whoever else, when they were children, were right about them, that they are shit and they don't want to be like that. But the shittiest things that they do to other people, they project all of their bad qualities on others and will publicly and privately try to attack them. They love to rip other people's reputations, and they will do that online in the form of videos, statuses. They will out people, and not in like, okay, here, can't you tell that this person's doing a really shitty thing because they did this video and I don't agree with this video. It's not about that. They will say something like, I know this person personally and this person is the worst. And I will tell you examples. Now, these examples now cannot be refuted. And that is what the narcissist and the histrionic lives for. They could make an entire status, video, something completely full of things that they did themselves and say that somebody else did them. And people will believe them and they will feel good. You see, narcissistics and histrionics are fighters. They fight for the good of other people, and they really, truly believe they are doing that. But when they start projecting their own qualities on other people, their bad qualities, and their desire is to humiliate them publicly, they could end up painting an entire picture of themselves, but blaming it on somebody else. And there might be some truth to what they're saying, but it's so exaggerated that the other person can't even actually fight against it, which then can destroy people's reputations when they were actually good people or the narcissist's own supplier, which becomes horribly shitty. They will always, when they're doing it, they will claim that they did it for the good of humanity, for the good of the world, because they don't want bad people running around, so they need to expose them. Like, it's their job. But if you ever want to call out a narcissist or find out if you are near a narcissist, go to your closest psychopath, because psychopaths hate narcissists and histrionics. They think they're stupid. They cannot handle them whatsoever. Because a psychopath feels superior to everybody, especially the narcissist and histrionic, because they are so shallow. They can basically spot them a mile away, and they will successfully ignore them and refuse to give them the attention that they want, which can make the narcissist and the histrionic run after the psychopath to be with them, because that's the only person that they seem to not be able to attain. So let's get into the psychopath. The psychopath is superior, feels superior, but is willing to destroy themselves and to keep themselves on the lower end of things in order to gain your trust and your affection. They do not mind waiting in shit. They will do it. They will prove their love to you by isolating themselves and tormenting themselves for months on end. They will do whatever it takes to prove to you that they love you. And this becomes sickening because of the lies and the crazy things that they will believe and say in order to prove that they want to be with you, they want to know you, they want to help you. A lot of psychopaths really do believe they are God on earth, that they are your only savior. And they do it through being like, I don't have anything, but I will give you the shirt off my back. They give you the shirt off their back, and then you owe them your life, and you don't even realize you do that. It is basically a deal with the devil. And they're so cunning and conniving that you don't realize you're making a deal with the devil. You think you're making a deal with somebody who could help you and someone who wants to help you. But in reality, like I said, this wolf wearing the sheep's clothing, they get you back into their place. They lock you up and they eat you whenever they want to. Because you see, the narcissist has the energy and attention span to go out into the world. Plus, they desire the glory. So they go out into the world and they see what's going on and they enjoy that. So they have to recycle friends. Who cares? They'll go back to them. It doesn't matter. They get the people that they need at the time that they need them. Where a psychopath doesn't want that. They just want a corral of things and people and animals to feed on when they get lonely and sad, and to blame when they're around too many people. You know, be like, I invited you here, but now I don't want you here. Can't you see that? Can't you see that you should leave now because I need to be alone? You're taking advantage of me. You're like, but you offered me your home. This is stuff that psychopaths do. And when you're in a relationship with them, it's impossible to leave them because they have gone through hell and back for you. You can't. You feel like you would just be the worst human being in the entire world if you were to leave a psychopath because of how great they were to you. But ultimately, it was never from their heart. It was never kindness. It was only because they observed what kindness looks like, what happiness looks like, what it means to be giving, what it means to be God on earth. And they did all those things. And then after they did them, they say, now come here so I can feed on you, because I also am a vampire, just like a narcissist and a histrionic. I also cannot be without feeding. And I know a lot of psychopaths really believe that they don't need to feed. And the reason they believe this is because they don't feed off of primary supply the way the narcissist does. They feed off of secondary supply. They enjoy being down and dirty with people who have nothing left to give them. And they like to be liked for who they are and not for the fake things that they've made themselves be. The problem is that who they are might be crap. It might not be anything. It might be shit and dirt. Yet they desire to be liked for that, and they believe that they are superior enough that they should be, that they don't have to work on themselves. They don't have to do anything special. And so they will abuse and suffocate people to keep them around just to prove how superior they are. So when a psychopath says they don't need supply, they don't need to take from somebody else in order to survive, they are actually lying to themselves. They need people broken and disgusting around them so that they can maintain their God superiority. They are alone. They drive themselves crazy. They start sitting and writing books like Fyodor Dostoevsky. I started saying it wrong and then I started laughing, and I'm not going to edit this, so now I have to discuss Fyodor Dostoevsky. I can't say his name right now. Fyodor. Nope. Anyway, like just dealing in their own brain that just can't handle anything or anybody and isolate themselves, but still remain God status. So a lot of times the psychopath might have been the golden child when they were younger. If they were the child of a narcissist, histrionic, or psychopathic parent, they would have been the one that had the projection of all of the perfection. And the reason why is that they maybe their parents treated them like they were a fragile piece of artwork or something. Whatever it is, they definitely don't feel like they're as dirty, gross, or bad or evil as you can tell that they are. Everything that they do is right. They will go into adulthood so much so as like to not even remember their own truth of their childhood, and they will start pretending that they were somebody else. Like you might have one sister pretending to be pretending, taking on, and memorizing the life of another sister because that other sister had what they felt like was more normal. And so instead of trying to figure out their own life, they would have just analyzed that and be like, okay, this is how you get liked, you get attention, you do your thing. I'm going to pretend like I am this person. And then now I'm a human being again. And I mean, it's very sad that the psychopath gets that way, even as a child, and can't really ever figure out who they are because they are always analyzing other people. But when and it's a lot of times it's because they were just not forced to be themselves in any way. They were allowed to just be handled with care. I mean, it's not 100% that, because that is me saying, which people will get mad, that psychopath is nurture and not nature. But there's a fine line between this. And I think that for psychopaths, because it is this brain disorder, it is something different. But I do think that there are pinnacles of psychopathic behavior, and that someone could be a supplier and have the ability to be psychopathic, but they never actually go there. They do their best to be happy and content in their own life without needing to go to that God superiority complex and to really figure out who they are and not ignore the warning signs of themselves. So let's go into what a psychopath does. Psychopath follows the divine masculine. But obviously the divine masculine is the soul. It's the God power. So they will not, but they are not God, and they live in a body. So they do these things in a weird, off way. First is penetration. They want to get to know people. They want to know everything about people, but they will rarely give off anything about themselves. Two is faith. They will put their life in the hands of other people because they do not care about their own life. So they will say, here, take me. Take my entire life. Control me. Destroy me. I don't care. I don't want any of this. You're going to take care of me now. I'm not going to work, and you're going to just make sure I'm okay. They will have dominion, but the control through the inside. It's a manipulative abuse from once they get inside of you. Once you pull inside into their home. Once you are with them, they have control over you because of everything that they've done to prove that you control them. 4, light. They are always happy at the expense of other people. And so this means they like to be around sad people because then they can pull to be happy. That's why when they're isolated and alone, they are dark and depressed because there's nobody there to pull them into basically a repulsive, like repellent way, like an opposite magnet. What's that called? When you repel. They repel against other people. And so that's how they're able to maintain light, because they see other people go through darkness and sadness and they're like, oh, but I'm happy. Good. Phew. Alone, they have no one to repel against. 5 is design. They will structure and organize everything, but usually it's in a backwards, ugly, disgusting way. They might know a lot about feng shui, even like in a real life, or they might know like what the best schools are to go to, whatever. And they'll be highly logical about all things mathematical, and maybe they even know a bunch of other languages, and they're smart in this way. But yet when they put something together, it's void of life and beauty. And it also might be filthy, dirty, and just weird because they're so disconnected from life. And then 6, elimination. They will get rid of their emotional attachment to people forever. In the same way that they will promise you to them forever and ever and ever. They want you to be around forever and ever and ever. But if something happens, they will never talk to you again. They will never think about you again. They will never wonder what you're doing ever again. It's just gone because they just black out that memory. That wasn't a good memory. And the last one is magic. Most of the time, the psychopath wants to live magically outside of the normal pain and growth of an actual life, and therefore they want people in their lives to work for them. So they might throw away good jobs if somebody in their life is working. Just like they're a woman psychopath and she's like the one making all the money. But then her husband kind of has a lesser job. She might just be like, you know what? I don't care. I'll live in shit. I don't want to work anymore. You're going to work and support me and I'm going to do this. Psychopaths might even live off the government because they just believe in the magic of not having to do anything. That makes them feel nice because they feel like they worked really hard before, so they don't have to work anymore. It's time for them to rest. And that's the weirdest thing. One of the silly things about them is that they really might feel that way at the age of 20. Oh, yeah, I've worked my life. I don't need to work anymore. And you're like, really? What are you saying? But that's just something that we are capable of doing, every single one of us. So this is something that you can see then that the psychopath more naturally hates in other people and themselves. They hate ascension. They do not want to grow or be better. They are already superior. There's no growth there. They don't need any of that. Hopefulness. They have a doomed mentality. They believe everything's going to die anyway, so they don't care if they grind their life away. Power. They have no struggles with authority. They don't want their power. It's about dominion for them. It's control from the inside. Power over someone, authority over, they will relinquish authority to anybody. Beauty. They do not mind being unattractive or filthy. They enjoy their natural state. And they want other people to enjoy it too because they feel it's superior. Progress. There's no need to progress. There's no need for this life. We are just souls sitting in these flesh prisons, right? Pleasure. They can withstand pain. They can withstand no sex. They don't need any of that. They can go for days, whatever. You want sex? Sure. Okay, whatever. Maybe not. Doesn't really matter. Do you want to torture them? Sure, whatever. They don't give a crap about actually having wonderful pleasure. It doesn't matter to them. You give them pleasure and they're like, am I supposed to thank you for this pleasure? This is a life thing. This is nothing that I do. I'm superior to pleasure. And then glory. They don't feel the need to make a statement in this life. They don't value glory or fame. They might have when they were younger, and then pretty quickly they're like, well, that's evil. That's not anything. That's just inferior stuff. I'm superior and I don't even need any of that. So there are funny things that psychopaths do, and you can kind of point it out in them if you're paying attention. One of them is that they will say that they're a victim and literally no one believes them. They'll talk about an ex and they'll be like, yeah, he used to physically abuse me, and people will be like, no, I don't think that's true. Why? Because when a psychopath talks about stuff, even if it is true, there's no conviction because in a way, they told the person to abuse them to prove their love at one point. And I'm not saying it's okay to abuse anybody and abuse anything like that, but a lot of times that's what the psychopath does in order to prove that they are submissive to you so that they can infiltrate, is allow them to be abused. So when they say it, it just sounds disconnected. So I guess maybe that's not a funny thing that they do, maybe a sad thing that they do. Another thing is they will say they're in pain and like they want you to feel bad for them, but nobody will feel bad for them because they're like, you kind of look like you're enjoying your pain, or you're trying to make it up because you feel like you haven't said you're in pain recently, and that's how you know that you're a human, is because you have pain. I don't know. They just seem like they're faking it if they are in pain at all. And then they could also, another thing they do is like kind of walk around naked with no shame. Like their sluttiness is slutty, like man or woman. Like they just lack shame. They lack the ability to be like, hey, you know, if it's a funeral, you shouldn't stand up and like laugh really loud and wave your arms if everyone else is crying. That's disrespectful, but they won't even notice. With the shit things that they will do to people. Like I said, they will take other people's memories as their own. They will become other people. They fix their own memory so that they match with their superiority too. So instead of splitting, they just fix the whole memory. Something that this is different than narcissism and histrionic is that if you are splitting, you have the dark side that you could put back into your light side. You could reattach them and you could become a whole person once again. But if you are actually changing the dark side into superiority, like it's still dark, but it's just superior, you have a hard time looking at anything that you do like it's inferior because you're already looking at it. You know it exists. You know you have this problem, but you don't see anything wrong with it. That is a completely different thing you have to change within your own consciousness. You're aware of it. So how do you, are you supposed to make yourself not aware of it? Like, it becomes really difficult to understand that. And really what it is you just have to admit that you're not superior and you're wrong. And that is one of those feats that seems incapable. Like for someone who's gone full-blown psychopath after they just maybe had it dormant and they're really trying to live their lives, they just go there and they're like, you know, it's easier just to be superior. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm fine. Everyone's fine. We're good. But they will slowly and surely take life away from the closest people around them. And those people won't even know. And they will take away their abilities to achieve their dreams. And they will even throw other people under the bus and make fun of people that they say that they love. Not in a way that a narcissist does, but in a way to just sort of be like, I'm taking those foolish dreams away from you. Don't worry about it. Because they feel like they know. And they will convince people so much through excessive lying and idealism of another person. They will make you believe that they love you so that they can't leave you. And that is really sad because then you are wasting somebody else's life on your own. And in the end of it all, they really believe that they are the only sane people, that they're not insane, that they're not doing crazy things, that this is all real and good and not crazy. And it's just crazy. It's crazy to think about that, like to watch someone do everything backwards and in reverse, and for them to believe that they're doing it the right way. You're trying to but this is not the way that life goes. It's not the way life works. Yet you're getting a free path. It's like you took a loophole, but other people are carrying you because of this loophole, and that's what hurts. Narcissists and histrionics can and will anger the psychopath enough to show that anybody who's in the psychopath's life can get out of it. So like I said, that the psychopath, if you want to know who's a narcissist, find yourself a good psychopath. They will point out the narcissist in 5 seconds. Same with the histrionic or the narcissist. They will be able to point out a psychopath because that psychopath will be awful to them. The problem is with histrionics and narcissists, they're pointing out everybody. Everybody's bad and awful. So you can't 100% trust them, but what you can do is if they expose someone, for a second you'll leave that person's light and you'll be like, maybe they weren't that great. Maybe they are controlling me from the inside, just enough to actually question it, because a psychopath doesn't want you to question it. And so as soon as you question it, that's when you can leave their grasp, even if you feel like you're going to have to do something shitty to do it, because obviously the psychopath, the narcissist, the histrionic, they're always a victim of the situation. So that is basically your difference between the psychopath and the narcissist. I don't know if you feel like you are more one or the other, but hopefully you're watching this and you are still a supplier, and a supplier doesn't believe that they are superior like the psychopath does or inferior like the narcissist histrionic does. They just feel equal because they feel like we are all equal. They are trying to do things out of love. They are trying to find people to work with that have the same values as them. They are searching for a romance. You are knowing that your life is meant to create, even if you're blocked, you're working to try to figure out why you're blocked. You want perfection, so you never feel good enough, but you're trying so hard to be so. You're trying to achieve something, and you want your life to be good. You believe that there could be something better. You know how to moderate yourself, and you do have faith that you are meant to live forever in some way, shape, or form. And so you haven't given up on that. Everyone starts out as a supplier. Like I said, like a kid is going to be supplying for a parent or somebody. And sometimes it's horrible, very obvious abuse. Sometimes it's underhanded current abuse. But we all have the ability to grow old and to be awful ourselves. And we think that it's just because we're fighting. Like I said, we're no longer the underdog. We're the wolf. We're the big bad wolf, but we're good. We're good wolves. We're the chosen one. We're going to help everything out. Yet all we're doing is destroying youth, destroying beauty, destroying life, destroying souls, destroying everybody. Because if everybody is given up on fighting for goodness, they lose themselves completely to a personality disorder, and nobody wants to be around them. So you wonder why everybody's a narcissist or everyone's a psychopath, because they are. But you might be one too. And so the best way that I could say to heal any of this is that you need to go back to being a supplier. You have to go back through that hell that was supplying for other people. You start supplying for other people, and slowly you learn how to correctly put up the right walls so that you're not a supplier. It's not about retaliation. It's not about exposure. It's not about fighting in general. It's about protecting yourself. And the only way you can do that, and to know the right way to do it, is to go back and to supply for people, to watch them, to start observing them, to care about them, and to learn about who you are, and to know how you can actually do bad things. And eventually you'll be in that child mindset where you experienced the trauma, and you'll look at it for the first time again. You'll be like, this is why I fought. And you can forgive yourself for it, and you can forgive your trauma, and you can understand who the real culprits of your pain are. Not these random people that you hate now and that cause all this drama in your life as an adult, but somebody in your childhood who didn't love you the way that they were supposed to. And that's the first step. It's not the forever step, but this is why you feel like you're surrounded by awful people. And so I just wanted to really go into that and work from there. Okay, that's it. Bye.